Awesome. You are live. 8:02. Columbus sailed the ocean blue. All right. Welcome, everybody, to Baker's Green Acres. I am Mark, your host. And Wednesday night is the night that Jill and I sit and take questions about all things farm, homestead, and just plain living related. And it's an interesting time that we live in. Interesting days. Very nice day here today. We had beautiful weather, not a streak in the sky. Some nice puffy clouds. That was nice. I finished up my hay yesterday for the first cutting, so I had a day to catch up on some other things. I really need to look after the animals a little closer. I'm getting ready to farrow some of my pigs out here, and for those of you that don't know what that means, I've got 3 pigs over here, 3 big sows that are getting ready to have babies. So in order to get ready for the new little bundles of joy, about all I have to do is put a hut in there for them. They may use it, they may not. And then normally I'll drop a bale of straw. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't, if there's plenty of other things for them to use. Right now out there isn't much for them to use. There's a lot of green stuff, but they like to make a nest out of brown stuff, dry stuff. So straw will work really good. And the huts are, they're not exactly porta huts. They're huts, we call them porta huts, but they're not actually porta huts. Porta Hut is a brand name. These come from Farm Tech, and I've had them for 15 years now, and they're still hanging in there. They're really nice. I think people have seen them, but if you haven't, I'll kind of right over there over the top of the pool. And the pool, I'm having problems with the pool. The pool has been green more than it's been blue this season. We haven't had much rain, but when it rains, we get, 4 inches of rain. And the other night, it was doing pretty good. I mean, I don't like to put a lot of chlorine in it. But if you get behind and it starts getting green, then you're fighting an uphill battle, and you just really have to shock it. And I don't like to do that because you don't like smelling like chlorine. I can't think that would be good. But I got some different stuff today, and it's making bubbles, so we'll see. I found it in the pool section, and I thought it was the same stuff that I usually get. It wasn't. This is different. It said only use for 20,000 gallons. It says use 6.4 ounces after I put 2 gallons in. So if a little is good, a lot will be better, I suppose, unless they come out tomorrow and it's on fire or something. But no, things are going pretty good. Jill and I went out today, and we went up to Lake City to Rogers Market and did a little shopping in there. And I kind of recommend it. The people in there were nice. There was a lot of people wearing masks in there. But I did see other people that were not, and we didn't get questioned by anybody going in. I think it's important to press this. I don't like some of the talk that I'm hearing right now. To be honest with you, I don't like it. I don't like any of this vaccine talk that's going on, and I'm hearing it from people I would just as soon not hear it from. But I thought about it like this today when I finally realized, the president comes out and he says, no, wearing a mask is patriotic. And then he says, we're going to have some vaccines ready here pretty soon. The military is going to help us pass it out. I didn't like the sound of that, but I thought that through, and I thought, all right, all you mask wearers, here's your vaccine. Try it out. You be first. You first. Get it. Go ahead, get it. As myself, I'm not interested in a vaccine for something that I don't have, right? I'm not interested in that. As I've said from the beginning, this is kind of a farce. You don't get to call it a pandemic if you don't have a massive body count, and we don't. We have more of a body count when it comes to the flu. So I'm a little skeptical of this. I don't like this talk coming out of the White House, but I'm going to give it 48 hours before I pass any judgment. But I can tell you that I will not be getting a vaccine, and I will not stand there and watch them put it in the arms of my children. I can tell you that right now. Why do you say that, Mark? Well, I'll tell you why I say that. When I was vaccinated as a small child, my parents trusted the people that were saying that, well, we need to do this. There's a big difference now. We don't trust them. We don't. And if we do, there's something wrong with you to trust them. So until you all gain our trust, you can put your vaccine out on the street if you want, but don't expect us to come flocking to it. Of course, I think some people will, because they think a vaccine is going to give them, protection from the dreaded virus, and people are actually scared. But there's always been a pretty good section of our population that just believes what they are told, and then there are some others of us that are thinkers. Now, maybe I'm identifying myself and I'm going to have to be thrown into a re-education camp, but I don't believe so, because there's lots of us, a whole lot of us. All right, well, that was my encounter today with talking about life here in the United States right now. It's a little rocky. I mean, these are times that will try men's souls, is what I'm being told, and it is a bit trying at times. I personally have found solace in what I'm doing in my work, and I actually had something really neat happen today that I will pass on to you. Last night and the night before, we were talking about a plan, that you need a plan, and putting together a plan and redirecting your plan when the time is, when it's necessitated by events. And I was talking about the importance of networking. All right, I think that's very important. It's good to have a network of people that you trust and that you have things in common with and that you can rely on. Very good. And now is the time to do that. You may have to rely on your community very closely. And if you choose, a Marxist community, go for it and see how well that goes. You can do that if you want. That's the beauty of a free country. You're free to, do dumb things, right? But the community I'm talking about is people that are self-reliant, that are skilled, that have wisdom that comes from doing, right? Not just from talking about it, not just yakking, not just cruising the internet. People who actually do things. And so today I was given the opportunity to go to a job site where they're logging off an 80-acre parcel. And a buddy of mine asked me if I'd like to get some wood and some firewood. And what the deal is here is they log off this 80-acre property, and it's in the woods, so it's just very green, very wooded. And I guess part of the contract is that they will clean up. And so he had a pile there of wood that was going to be loaded through the chipper, but it was dry wood, so it doesn't score a lot of weight in chips. And so they just assume if somebody wants it for firewood, come get it, Well, I don't think it's for everybody, but I mean, I do business with this guy other than that. So he says, hey, come on, get some. So I drove my truck over there. I had a nice drive over this morning, my big truck. And then Matt showed me the rig, the chipper. It's got an arm on it that can pick stuff up and this and that. And it's got a grinder on it that you load logs in and they come out chips. And you can load big logs in. You can load dry logs in, no problem. It's just kind of hard on the machine. They prefer to load wet logs through, right? So anyway, he shows me around and then loaded my truck. And then we stood there and talked for about 45 minutes or so. Just kind of got to know each other a little bit better and had a nice time. I really had a good time. And then I drove home and got the truck unloaded and got a nice load of wood. It's always nice to have a load of wood. So that was what my morning was. And on my way home, a guy called that was going to get one of our puppies. And he says, I can't, now's not a good time. I'm not going to be able to take the puppy. It's just not a good time. I said, oh, yeah, okay, no problem, because we've got a lot of people that want puppies. So I may have told you last week, we had some people, or maybe Saturday, yeah, it was Saturday, some people came to visit that we had met at the Rogue Food Conference. And they called me and said, hey, they live in Texas, and hey, we're here in northern Michigan, and you said if we were here, come on by. The guy say that, yeah, I probably said that, but I've got hay going, I've got 3 or 4 projects going. Jill had something going that day, and I was kind of like, I hope they're not watching now, but I was kind of like, I need this like a hole in the head. But when they showed up, they were kind of interesting people. And I remembered them somewhat. Then they told me they had a sick baby with them. Oh yeah, now I remember. And I was just kind of impressed that they came all the way from Texas. And we talked about the Rogue Food Conference. And they had made some observations that I hadn't actually seen. And we started having fun. And then I took them and I showed them around the farm. Had a good time. And they were saying, well, we want to get something like this going. And I think I've shared this with you. These guys they're on the ball. They've got a lot of opportunity in front of them. They are running at least two businesses that I know of right now. And they want to start a farm. Kind of warms my heart. You want to do what I'm doing. Oh, yeah, that's good. And so I said, well, if you really wanted to get into learning how to butcher chickens, you could come by Monday, because we're going to be butchering chickens Monday. And they were like, really? I said, yeah, sure you can. Okay. Well, they showed up and they brought their oldest daughter with them. We had a great time. They stayed for lunch. Had a good time. Their daughter fell in love with the puppies. And there was some talk about, oh, they're all sold. That's too bad. And I said, there's one guy that I think may back out on it. And so this guy backed out for a good reason. I mean, people have their reasons. He's a farmer. And I called them, or I texted them. I said, hey, just so you know, there's a puppy that came available this morning. And about 2 minutes later, I got does the puppy have to stay with its mother for a while, or can it go today? I said, it could go today. And he said, then about 2 more minutes later, he says, is it the one that my daughter fell in love with? I had to check, and sure enough, it was the one that his daughter had fallen in love with. And he says, okay, we want it. We'll be there in like 2.5 hours. Okay. So we're kind of waiting around. Me and Jill were going to do something else, but we wanted to wait until they got here to give them the puppy. And when they got here, we found out they were on their way home. They were going back to Texas. They had been up here visiting family, and they were headed back to Texas when I sent them the text. So he's like almost 3 hours out, and they turned around and came back. So it was kind of a neat story. It showed a lot of dedication to his children, and I got the opportunity to see these 2 little girls. Their faces just light right up. A 9-year-old and a 5-year-old, I think, wasn't it? 9 and 5? Yeah. 9 and 4. And they were just lit from, they up here on vacation, summer vacation, and then they're heading home. They had to say goodbye to Grandma and Grandpa and everybody else. And they're on their way home, and their dad tells them, guess what? We're going to turn around, go back to Baker's, and get a puppy for you guys. And so these 2 little kids were just about burst into flames in front of us. It was really fun to see. So that was a real high point of the day. So anyway, I got Jill with me here on the laptop. And
some thumbs ups.
Yes, could we please get some thumbs up? Please get some thumbs up. We want to bust through this algorithmic thing. We'd like to... And if while you're at it, if you could subscribe and then flood this thing with comments. Just flood it with comments. Even just tell us where you're from or something, because that helps the algorithmic thing work good. Because I don't think it works really that good. And it's kind of odd because I make these videos and it will show, well, we had 200 people that saw that video. But something tells me it's more, because I keep running into people that says, I watch your videos, Mr. I was at the bank today. The bank, you can't go in, right? Can't go in, you gotta sit in your car. So I'm sitting in our car, and there's a lady sitting over here in her car. Didn't have a mask on, so of course we're friends right away. And hello, how you doing? And she said, oh, Mr. Baker, I watch your videos. So it's kind of fun. That does happen a lot. And I just think with 200 people seeing a video, well, they could all live around here, but I don't think you do all live around here. I really don't. And it's always the people that live around here that stop me and say, I watch your videos, they're really fun. So anyway, I'm ready to go. I'm the answer man. I know everything there is to know about small farming, and I can fill you in on what you need to know and how to do it. I try not to be dogmatic, but you've come to the right place for the right answers, the correct answers. Go no other place because they're wrong. But I don't want to be dogmatic. I don't want to turn anybody away. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm ready.
So,
I'm ready.
I had that question from Sherry Bisbal earlier today about tips and tricks for loading pigs.
Oh, loading pigs. That can be a bad scene. That can be really, I mean, it's, you kind of have this idea, well, I'm going to raise some pigs, get them processed. We'll have just pork chops and it'll be great. And we can have barbecues and everything, but you skip the part of, there's a lot of parts that people skip, but one of them is, how are we going to get them to the place where they process them? And for that, I say process them yourself. But if that's not what you want to do and you want to figure out a way to get them where you want to go, there's a couple ways. If you don't do a lot of it, and like say, you've got 50 of them in a field and you've got to get 10 of them to market, how do you get the right 10 to get in the trailer? That can be really a challenge. But if you are raising 2 or 3, let's say, and they're all going to go at the same time, then sometimes what I do is I will back the trailer up and they'll have access to get in the trailer. Of course, they can't get any place else. They can't go around it into the yard, into the garden or anything, and then I'll put something up in there that they might like. And you can do this a week ahead of time, so there's no rush. And sometimes you will find that you'll go out there the morning that it's time to go, and you're thinking, well, I'm just going to throw some feed in, they'll go up in, and I'll go, and they're sleeping in there, so you just close the gate and then you're off. So that's one way of doing it. That's one of the tricks. The other way is the way I do it. We build what we call a loader, and it's a small corral. I build them 12 by 12 and then have a swing gate on the back of it. If I had you don't have okay, I could use that, I suppose, if that's all right. Thanks. How's that? Okay, so let's say this is your fence, right? And this is the outside. Okay, this is the pig side. My loaders look something like this. Wow, this is interesting.
Yeah, you're really grainy.
I'm grainy? Can't see it? Me too? Even?
Yeah, your picture.
Oh, it looks good to me. Okay. Well, this would be 12 by 12. It's showing up good on my phone. 12 by 12. And then there would be a small opening here. And then a swing gate on the back. So let's say it's hinged right here. Okay, and you put a rope from here along the top of this corral, and this corral needs to be like 48 inches high, maybe even a little higher, wouldn't hurt. And I build them out of wood. So I'll put corner posts in here of like 6x6s, 6x6s, put them deep in, and then fill this in with 2x10s or 2x12s or 2x8s, whatever you can get a good deal on. And then when I feed, I come here with my tractor and I drop it right in here. Whatever I'm feeding, I'll drop it right in there. So they all got to get used to getting in here, right? And then the day that I want to load them, I feed them, and then I step off the tractor, grab this rope, and pull it. And this shuts. And then sometimes there's 15 pigs in a 12x12. And they're all kind of fighting to get the food. So they're not even watching what I'm doing. And then I can back the trailer up to here, like this, and use what we call pig boards. And pig boards are nothing more than a 4x8 piece of plywood, and you want to use like 7/16 plywood. Don't be using 1-inch plywood, way too heavy. 1/2-inch plywood, too light. 7/16 is what you want. 7/16? 9/16, no. You don't want 3/4 either. Let's see. 1/2-inch would be 8/16. So 9/16, is that a 9/16? I don't know if there is a 9/16 plywood. Okay, well, let's just go with 1/2-inch then. 1/2-inch plywood, that'll be okay. And you just take the sheet of plywood, you cut it in half, so it's 2 pieces of plywood, 4x4, and then at the top where you would put your hands, make a slot so you can put your fingers through, about this wide apart. And then you use those boards to get behind the pigs and push them towards the entrance of the trailer, and generally they'll just hop right in. I mean, it's a little bit more difficult than that, but you can get them in. There's other ways to do it too, using that configuration and a gate that you'd swing shut. Maybe I should go into a little bit more detail with that. Okay, there's a dog in there. Claire, get out of there.
She does it all.
She's still going.
She does it all.
Yeah.
She doesn't care what you say.
You want to use the BB gun? She doesn't care.
Not really. You're on your...
So, yeah, that's what we do. And but you know, anymore, I really don't load pigs up anymore because I really don't take them to the process anymore. If you haven't been watching long, what's this gal's first name?
It was Sherry.
Sherry. I'm preaching now that it is of the utmost importance for you to have in your plan the ability to be able to process your own pigs, and it's doable. It is definitely doable. If you can do deer, you can do pigs, and if you can do pigs, you can do cows. And if you haven't noticed right now, if you tried to get an appointment for your pigs, you might be looking at next year. I think it is out to next year, most of the processors around here. The name like Bizball, it sounds like they're from around here too.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. So.
In fact, her daughter Gracie may learn how to butcher chickens with us.
Okay. Well, there you go.
Very local.
Well, if you're around here, you should come to our hog processing class. Our second class is going to be in December. What? December what?
The first weekend of December.
The first weekend
I
of
want to
December.
say 6, 7, and 8.
We got the calendar here someplace.
Yeah. But
you can-
bakersgreenacres.com.
Yeah, bakersgreenacres.com, and you can find out exactly when that is. But the first class is completely full, and I know that the second class has at least halfway full. So it looks like we are going to fill that class. And then after that, we're just going to have to be sending you all up to Beaver Island. To be honest with you, I don't know what's going to happen because that's after the election. So I don't know what's going to happen. But maybe the coronavirus will go away after the election. I don't know. But we just have to take it as it comes. That's the best we can do. But yeah, I highly recommend that you look for in your plan, in your survival plan or your homesteading plan, you decide why it is that you're doing this, and then your mission. Look at that. That's a new person gave us a super chat. Thanks a lot. I wonder what I said. Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Figured it out. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. But whatever your mission is with your homestead, like for me, my mission is to, provide a safe environment for my children, that they are well fed, and they can be protected, and there's a place for them to learn, and a nice place for us to live is my mission. And when you know what your mission is, then you start figuring out, okay, where are the choke points on that? Where am I going to get hung up on that? Okay, let's say your mission is to keep your lawn mowed. What are the choke points? Gee, fuel. What if there's no more fuel? Okay, so you got to make sure that you have fuel, and that's not hard to do. You overcome that. That's fuel tank. Fuel truck comes, drops fuel. You got fuel. That's it. How do you store fuel? Start to figure that out. Start to research that. I've made some huge mistakes storing fuel, and you don't want to do that. I'll never forget, I had 4 drums of gasoline, right? And I had them stored someplace. I had a tarp over them, and I had a rope around there tied down on there. And then one day I was walking past there, and the tarp was off, and the tops off of the fuel drums are taken off. And I said, "Who did this? Who the heck did this?" And my son Keith, who's 16 now and would have been probably about 7 at the time, said, "Well, I wanted to see what was in there." So he took them off and let him sit there, and I didn't find it for a while, and there was more, there was a lot of water in the fuel. Well, I did salvage a lot of it, but a lot of it I lost because of that. Now, I've got it figured out. I have a fuel tank, and as soon as I got it set up and I got the tanks painted, looking nice, placarded gasoline, placarded diesel, got my pumps on there that I scrounged, everything's looking good. Then I went to Ebel's and I bought a set of locks. And I locked the caps where you put the gas in, and I locked the caps where you crank the pump so that the fuel is secured. Then I built a little roof over it so that, there's a barrier of protection from the rain coming down. The tanks are sealed, but, you want to give redundancy in your operations. So the roof, the sealed tanks, maybe I'll even go one more and put a tarp over it. I don't think I will. This is generally how farms do it. So if it works for them, it'll work for me. Sleep well. Somebody said sleep well. Who's leaving? It's just getting good. Look at that with a super chat like that. Thanks a lot. $50. That's really nice of you. Who is that? Is that somebody we know?
Tile setter.
Wow. Tile setter. Let us know who you are. Or if you have any questions, we'll move you right to the top of the list. Appreciate that, though. That's nice.
Yeah.
How's that? You got another?
Did a whole bunch of website work, and so that'll help.
Yeah. BakersGreenAcres.com is where you would want to go if you want to see what Baker's Green Acres offers. We are a livestock operation. We're pretty diversified, so we do a lot of vegetables and things like that, but it's mostly just for us. But we have beef, pork, chicken. I'm not going to have any beef for you, I'm sorry. We're just really backed up on orders, and pigs were pretty backed up too. Chickens were more like a CSA. You tell us what you want, we grow them for you, and we have several ways we can get them to you. We can even deliver them to you, but we charge for delivery. So, but bakersgreenacres.com will let you know how our consulting services work and how the Anyone Can Farm classes work and things like that. Okay? Also, while I'm thinking about it, you might want to check on Facebook the Anyone Can Farm tribe. That's been working out really good. We're way over 900 people now. And, the theme of building a network is if you ever teach something or if you ever try to communicate a concept and it's kind of the remnant of it is in your mind, then it sort of reinforces it in your mind. If you really want to learn how something works, teach it. Then you really get a good grasp of it. And I find myself with the tribe looking for people, these people that were here today and got the puppy. Was listening to a commentary on her father, and he was a serviceman, and then he went and worked for NASA for a bunch of years, electrical engineer, and then he went on to do several other things, but when everything was said and done, he let it all go, and he got a doctorate in, what was it he got a doctorate in? Homeopathy.
Yeah.
So when maybe you don't know this, but electrical engineering and homeopathy, they are as far away from each other as they could possibly be. Electrical engineering is very black and white. Homeopathy is shades of gray, wouldn't you say? Wouldn't you say?
No.
Well, homeopathy is something that you have to have a gut for. I mean, your gut feeling could tell you should wire something a certain way, but that's not really what you go by. You go by the principles of electrical engineering, and that's how you get there. And that's all stuff that's proven. This is what works. This is what doesn't work. There isn't 10 different ways to do it. I don't think. Not an electrical engineer, but I play one sometimes. But homeopathy, and I could be wrong about that, but it just seems like it's a very spiritual, eyes wide open, taking a million different things into account and coming out with a path to go for health and welfare and things like that. So when they were leaving today, I said, hey, tell your dad that, tell him about the tribe. And she says, I will, I'll turn him on to it. So we're looking for that diverse crowd of expertise. We're in kind of a different phase in our country where there's a lot of people that, regardless of what they are trained to do, they're going to have to do a bunch of things that they weren't trained to do. We're all going to learn how to be diversified and multitasking type people if we want to make it. Okay? So that's kind of what we're looking for in the tribe. If you don't have any expertise, it's a good place too, because you can pick up stuff from other people. Last night I told you that I am going to change my lifestyle somewhat as my course correction for the new millennium. And I said I want to learn to do some new stuff. And today, I kind of think that Matt must listen to this, because I was cutting with my chainsaw, and my chainsaw wasn't cutting too good. And he gets down, he goes to his semi, and he pulls out this nice Stihl chainsaw, big heavy guy. Starts it up, and he takes it over to me, and he says, let me show you something new. Let me show you something you don't know, I think is what he said. I said, all right, I thought that was kind of weird. But he points to the tooth on the chain, he says, this is a chipper chain. Try this. Looked just like the chain on mine, but mine was dull and his wasn't. But man, that thing ripped through a log about this big, quick, a lot of power getting through. Yeah, so I think maybe he was listening to me, because then he said, thanks for the shout out, so, okay. Next.
Mary wanted to know, how do you know when a hen is egg bound?
Well, this is easy. You grab your hen, right? And you're going to be holding her just like this. And evidently you think she's egg bound because she's not putting out any eggs. And maybe she's walking funny or something. You hold her just like this with her head down, so her little vent is right here. And then you take your finger, your index finger, and you start pushing in there. And if it won't go in, all right, then you're not going to know. So you're just going to have to get it wet, so like this. And then push it in until you feel an egg. And then kind of move it around a little bit. See if you can get around both sides of it. And there you go. If you're feeling the egg and it's a soft egg, right? If it's soft, then that means that's an egg that isn't quite developed, and here, you know, it'll come. So, but if she's egg bound, what you're gonna feel as soon as you put your finger in, you're gonna feel an egg right there, and it's gonna be a hard egg. And if she's truly egg bound, and you start moving that around like this, and you just kind of, you might want to actually, you know, seriously put a little bit of lubricating oil on your finger, like a vegetable oil, something like that. I wouldn't use petroleum, and or maybe Vaseline. That'd be petroleum, wouldn't it? But I guess that'd be okay. And you kind of go around the inside rim of her vent. So you're going around like this, and just loosen that up, and maybe it's got some dried stuff in there. Egg bound chickens, a lot of times what happens is they have an egg break, and it starts to ooze out, and then it solidifies, and that can bind them up. So if you can break whatever's blocking that and get a little lube there so she can pass her eggs, that might do it. That's the best I can do. Do you have anything to add to that? I gotta said you can take her by the head and try to blow that egg out.
Probably work.
Or try to blow. Okay. Next.
Yeah. I had a question.
Yeah, if you guys have questions, let them
this is-
flow in now. Let them
Yeah,
flow in now.
just asking caps if you would.
Asking caps, please, if you would. And if you have questions for Jill, she's way smarter than me.
Yeah. So, Honey Caffeina said that she's making tea out of weeds to help with her allergies, and wondered what thoughts I had on it.
Ah, there you go.
So, weeds are fabulous for building your whole entire system, especially your immune system. And anytime that you can eat from your ecosystem, it is perfectly designed to help you exist in that place and time. So, using weeds for tea is fabulous. There are a whole lot of other ways you can use those weeds to build your system. I make pesto. You can Google how to make dandelion pesto, and then I do it with lamb's quarter, dandelion. You could do it with amaranth or pig's weed, same thing. So pesto, you can use a bunch of them in salads, so you're eating them straight. You can use them in smoothies the same way you would use kale or spinach, some of the dark leafy greens. Same. You can use them in your smoothies, throw them in an egg omelet. Any place you can add those dark leafy greens, you can use some of those weeds. I have never used nettle, Brittany, just because it's not in my repertoire, and I'm not even sure if I have it. Rachel has a friend, and she did a weed walk with us because she knows our property really well, and she didn't mention anything about nettle, so I don't think I even have it close by. But there's a lot of weeds right in your backyard, in your garden, that you can and should be eating. Weeds, ounce for ounce, have anywhere from 4 to 10 times the nutrients that the vitamins and minerals that any of your dark leafy greens in your garden have. So for every bite of weeds that you eat, you're getting that much deeper nutrition into you. You're also connecting to your ecosystem. You're connecting to what's out there for you. So you're appreciating and paying attention to your farm, to your soils, because different weeds favor different kinds of soil. That's a whole really fun thing to look up. You're tuning into the abundance around you, and gratitude is in and of itself a huge measure of health. So you're helping yourself a whole lot. Yeah, red amaranth is fabulous. Very high protein, very nutrient dense. Plantain, very high protein, very nutrient dense. It's a great first aid. I've been using it on my fingers a lot. I use it just like a Band-Aid. Chew it up a little bit, put it on my fingers, and then put a Band-Aid on to hold it on because I cut them a lot when we're doing chickens. And it soothes the skin, helps draw out anything that might be in there. We used it on a bee stings. Frank had a fight over raspberries with a wasp today. And it took the sting out of the bee stings. Plantain is amazing. And that is the little weed that's poking up in your yard because all the grass isn't growing. If you're anywhere near where we are and it's been dry, and plantain is waving its little flag. So there's a lot of great weeds because they are very nutrient dense and they're very connected to your environment. They will help you with your allergies, and you can eat them in all those ways besides tea. I'm a horrible tea drinker no matter how hard I try. So, yes, he did win in the end, Brittany. He got that bee quite nicely in about 5 pieces with his knife, and it also made him feel better. So, weeds for your allergies are great. And Kathleen asked about my green weed powder. So this is the fun thing that I'm playing with right now. I made salves with lard, and I should make a video for you because that's really fun. I made one with the plantain because it's really good for your skin. So I'm using the salve with the lard. I don't know, you can tell. I have hardly any fingernails from doing chickens and getting the lungs out. It's really hard on your fingernails and skin. So I made this salve for it. Lard being an animal fat, and your skin being a fatty tissue, it absorbs better than almost any other fat, truly, because your body identifies with it really well. So I put plantain, comfrey, and chickweed, all really great skincare creams in my salve. Really fun. Green powder, I took a whole bunch of weeds and dried them in my dehydrator and blended them up in my blender. And if you've ever seen, what's the one that I have right now? I don't know, moringa powder and spirulina powder. This is green weed powder. Same. Except I made it for free from the weeds in my yard and garden. I just weeded and then I dried the weeds. Ground them up and I can put them in smoothies, sprinkle them, put them with yogurt when we make yogurt, because green food is agreeable with any food that you eat, any other thing. So that's where I use my green powder, but this way I can enjoy that nutrient density and all of the great chlorophyll in weeds all winter long. So that's my green weed powder, and that's weeds. And I'll make a video for you guys of the lard and maybe the green weed powder because it's really fun.
Where your videos?
Yeah, a lot of my videos are on my Abundant Living Facebook page. If you go and find that on Facebook. And I do have an Abundant Living YouTube channel. Although I'll warn you that it turns out that there's about 50 different Abundant Living YouTube channels. Most of them are some kind of preacher guy or church. And so it's kind of hard to find unless I send you a link. So if you would like that, let me know, and I'll send you that. Otherwise, the Facebook page is the best place.
Put it in the show notes, couldn't you?
Yeah, I will do that too. So, back to you. And I see there's a pile of questions coming in that I need to find a minute, and then I'll be able to see it.
All right.
I saw these wonderful people.
If you guys want to hear more from Jill, just say, hey, I got a question for Jill, and that's a good thing. She's smart about these things. It kind of makes you wonder, you know, we don't think food is valid unless it's something that we, you know, we plant, get at the nursery, get the seeds or whatever. But as Jill is showing me on a pretty daily basis, there's so much stuff out there that we kind of discount it as food, and she's been feeding it to me, so, and I'm doing okay. But the abundant living thing, I think, is true. I don't think we were, well, I mean, it seems like everything was provided here for us in abundance, but yet we seem to be pulled away from that and want to have a Corvette instead. And I'm not really too sure about all that. But I think there's a lot out there for us to utilize. And the more we research that, the more we find is out there, actually. All right.
William Brasker wants to know how many sows do you have that are expecting pigs?
I have 6 right now. 6 sows, and they're all going to be going about the same time, in less than a month. So if you need pigs, get your orders in.
Yep, they're going to be nice little pigs.
Yeah, they'll be nice little pigs. I got some pure Mangalitas and then some half-breeds. Half-breeds, I think, is probably a little bit more what people are looking for, because they don't have quite as much fat. And when you're new to the Mangalita, you just don't know what to do with the fat. But when you get to be old hands at it like us, the fat is where it's at. I mean, really, that's where the flavor is. But when you first see it, and you see a pork chop with a center eye about this big, and the pork chop's that big with fat, you think, oh no, what am I going to do with that? But and it takes you a while to customize your system to be able to use that kind of fat. But we were designed for the pig. The pig was designed for us. The pig was designed for acorns, and acorns were designed for the pig. So we weren't really designed for Hot Pockets. Or macaroni and cheese. We were designed to, actually, we're meat eaters, and that's what we should be doing. So, there you go.
Yep. Mike Finn.
Haven't heard from Mike in a while. Seems like.
Yeah.
How you doing? How you doing, Mike?
He wanted to know, can you bale hay the same day as cutting it? If you
Yeah.
leave it in the field to dry, how long does it need to dry after cutting?
Well, when I first started doing it, a guy gave me some advice, and he said, keep picking it up and feeling through it. So when you first flip it over, it should be really wet on the bottom. And here would be different from where you're at, because we have a lot of ground moisture. But like this last cutting that I did, it was so dry that as soon as I cut it, flipped it once, and then that same day it was green, but it was dry enough that I could bale it. It could actually get too dry on you, and then it becomes brittle, right? So then you're going to want to wait until it gets a little bit of moisture on it. So it's just tough. It's tough. You can't break it because the baler starts to pull it in, and if it is not tough and there's nothing for it to grab onto, it'll just break through. The tines just break through the hay. So, you know, you got to be you got to be careful. You can't bale it when it's green and wet. But I don't know. I know people that go out there with a moisture meter, and then they wind up taking it all out of their barn again because it's making so much heat. You go in the barn and you smell something, doesn't smell right. And then you start digging in the hay pile, and it's like, holy smokes, it's about ready to touch off. And they wind up taking it out. I've never had to take any hay out of the barn. You can get kind of anal about hay. But, you know, every year I have good bales and bad bales. This year I had a lot of bad bales. This wasn't a good hay year for me. And I put all this hay in the barn yesterday. I just finished it up. Was that yesterday?
Yep.
Yeah. Wow. And there was a time when I would feel like, I failed. Look at these bales. They look terrible. The strings are falling off and, looks terrible. Cows don't care, right? And I'm not selling the bales to somebody else, so they're not going to say, boy, these bales aren't very tight, are they? I'm just feeding them to the cows. The cows don't care. They don't care. So, yeah, it wasn't the greatest year for doing hay, but I got it done. And I didn't get as much as I normally do, but like I told you last night, I have a whole bunch of different places where I can adjust. I can graze longer, and if I need to, I have plenty of freezer space. And it's not like I have to get an appointment to get my cows done. I can just one weekend decide, well, somebody can't stay. Somebody's got to go in the freezer. Who's it going to be? And I don't let them decide. I decide for them. Seems kind of mean, doesn't it? It usually is, there's going to be a member of the herd that is going to be better in the freezer than they are out eating hay. There's always somebody that should go to freezer camp first for one reason or another. And it can be like they're eating too much and they're ready. It's a cow that's not giving milk anymore and she won't catch. She'll make good hamburger. So there's always a reason.
One that likes to jump gates and eat corn.
Gate jumper, corn eater. Yep, she's gone. She's a gate jumper. Is that Tulip? Is her name? Yep.
I think so.
Or Merriweather?
Daisy.
Daisy.
The flower time.
Yep.
So,
Let's make good
alright.
hamburger.
This is the last question I have too. So if other
All right,
people have
51
questions-
minutes. We might get out of here early tonight.
Yeah. Joshua wants to know, how are your mushroom logs going?
Really good. As it turned out, the old mushroom logs, this is about going to be their last year, I think, because they've put out a couple of times valiantly, and they're old logs. And my new logs, the mycelium, appears to have run, but they won't be putting out any mushroom this year. If they do, it'll be very little. And but you know what I'm going to do is every spring I'm going to make it my business to inoculate a number of logs. And so this year I looked around. I know exactly where I'm going to cut my logs from next year, and just do that. And then when they start coming in again, I'll have plenty of mushrooms. We did not have as many mushrooms this year as we would have liked to. Just didn't. And you know what? Jill and I were talking about the way things have gone this spring and summer because of some changes in the regulations that Department of Ag has done. We've gotten a whole lot more chicken processing coming to us, a whole lot more. So it's cut into our garden time. So we don't have as much time to spend, in the garden. Plus doing this too. This preparation for this takes time too. So that's cut in on that. I'm not whining at all. We enjoy doing this, but and there's definitely perks to doing this. Definitely perks, like that $49 that came in there. That's a perk. But I that's not really why we do it. As you get into this more, you find out for people like us the perks in this is sharing it and then have people that came and got a puppy from us today. That whole scenario, if we weren't sharers, that never would have happened. That all happened because there was a slot that came open at the Rogue Food Conference. What was that, March? January. And John Moody called and said, can you fill it? And I was kind of like, well, I guess. But I didn't really want to. I mean, it's a long drive, but we got 2 nights hotel paid for, and plus they paid for our meals and they paid for our gas and stuff. So it was like a a vacation, but we didn't get paid to do it. But the benefits that came out of that were far greater than, let's say I'd have gotten a $500 stipend out of it and didn't meet anybody and just buzzed in, did the speaking engagement and then buzzed out. We didn't do that. We had a couple of meals there, sat and talked with people, and because of that, we sold that puppy today. But it wasn't really about selling the puppy. It was about passing the puppy on to a couple of little kids that those kids are never going to forget that vacation when we got Snowball. And they kept her name. Her name was Snowball. My kids had named her. So there's a lot to this. I mean, there's a lot to it. So sharing is an important thing. But anyway, we were talking about the garden's not doing so good. But we've made a lot more money, probably twice as much as we normally do butchering chickens. And chickens is just one day a week, and it's not the main stream of dollars coming into this household. It's one stream. But now what we can do with the other day's worth of proceeds is we can go to other farms around here, people we know. We're going to go right up their driveway. What do you got? And pay them what they want for it, and then bring it home and put it in our cans or put it in our root cellar and things like that. So if we need to procure stuff, you don't have to grow everything. You can get it from other people, and people need money too. We need streams of food, we need streams of dollars, we need streams of parts, resources, raw materials. We need all those streams of things coming into our farmstead, not just dollars. Because with dollars, there's a whole lot of slippage in that. And what I mean by that is, let's say you work 40 hours a week, you bring home a paycheck. When you look at that paycheck, you're not just paying yourself. You're paying a lot of other people with that paycheck. People you don't even know, and people that don't go to work. You're paying for them. So to focus all of your attention on that process is probably I'm going to work a whole lot of overtime. You're going to pay a lot more in tax, right? And personally, I don't like paying taxes to people who waste my money. And usually people who don't work for their money are pretty reckless with your money. And you just don't have to look any further than your state capital to see that, right? So that's why the homestead is really nice, because if I grow a beef that's eating hay off my property, I butcher it myself, it goes in my freezers, and I'm feeding it to my children and my wife and me. I'm not giving any of it to anybody else. I mean, I have to pay taxes on the land that I own, believe that. But if you are going to go to the store and you're going to buy that beef, you're going to get taxed on that money when you make it, and then you're going to get taxed on it when you spend it. You're going to get taxed on it getting there, right? And then bringing it home, you're going to be taxed on all of that, your fuel and everything. So when you look at it that way, the farmstead is sort of like you have a machine in the back room that you're in there, you're turning it and you're printing dollars. You're kind of, it's like a counterfeiting operation, right? I shouldn't say that. It's not, because you're not counterfeiting dollars, but you've got a printing press and you're printing dollars, kind of, because that bushel of tomatoes that you bring in, you're not paying for them. You went to the store and bought them, well, you'd be paying for them then, right? So, I mean, I think you know what I'm saying. Somebody pulling? I think it's across the road. So we're at 59 minutes. Is there another question? Because there's a lot of people in here right now. No, if that's it. Well, great. We're going to do part 3 tomorrow night of You Gotta Have a Plan. And there's a lot of people here, I think, because the numbers are so high, that we're not here yesterday and the day before. And we're going through a little exercise of looking at our world around us and maybe making some adjustments to our plan, our homestead plan. Just reassessing our priorities, where we want to go, and how we plan to get there. So, in anything that you do, you've got to have a plan. Not saying that it's got to be the plan, but you got to have a plan. And then as you're going on your voyage, your journey, I almost don't like to use that word, but as you're going, you are always doing course corrections. Always. You know, it's like that when you're driving someplace. You drive to the end of the road, you got to turn the course, right? So you can make a left. And then you got to make a right. And then you got to go around the corner. You know, you're correcting the course. You don't just drive straight. And even if you were, let's say you were flying, you set it on a heading of 270, let's say, and then you get a wind from the side and you're starting to lose, you know, so you got to make a correction in your course. You're always making corrections. All right, so that's what we're going to do. We're going to talk about that tomorrow a little bit more. Don't know exactly what I'm going to be talking about tomorrow. I would like a little input maybe, and you know, I can take that down below and then I can contemplate it tomorrow as I'm going about my daily duties. And you know, I would like to say something else too that keeps keeps presenting itself to me, why this is a good career field for me to be in. There is no party line in what I'm doing. There isn't some party line that I'm carrying, you know. If I say that for us, it's a choke point that we don't want to have is processing. We want to be able to handle that ourselves. I'm not saying that to be, it's not a script, right? I'm saying it because we've lived it, and this would make good sense to make things go better in our operation, right? So there's no script. There's no party line. There's no storyline. There's nothing I can't say to you on here, you know. Well, you don't want to say that. No, I can say anything I want to say here. I am not protecting any industry, corporation, legal entity, nothing like this, because it's me, my family, and this chunk of dirt that we're farming on, right? I don't have to take up for the township. I don't have to, you know, once in a while I take up for people that I do business with. Why? Because they give me good service. They do good things for me, right? So I will give them a shout out. But I don't have any sponsors or anything like that. And this is a good thing for me because maybe if I was gonna be sponsored by some company and they said, well, we'll pay you $1 million a year just to mention our name, and I'd be like, well, I don't use your product. And they said, well, it doesn't matter. We're going to pay $1 million. Just lie. You know, that wouldn't really work for me, and I think you'd probably get it. So I think that's one of the things to homesteading and small farming that is so beneficial to people, because I know a lot of you have jobs. I did for years. I had a regular job, and you can't say what you want on that regular job. I'm sitting in a staff meeting, and the commander's giving some story about how hard working we are, and you don't want to say everybody but you, Colonel Johnson. You don't want to say that, you know, because it'll get you fired. So you can't really be truthful, you know. You have to kind of play the game. You know, well, in this, there's no game to play. It's just your hard work. You make the right decision or the wrong decision. You make the right decision, you get a harvest out of it. Wrong decision, you got a problem, and not always a bad thing because you can learn from it. So that's what this is, and I think for a lot of people right now, there's comfort in that because it's a foundation that's real. You know, we're constantly being told, well, be a good patriot, wear a face mask. Not going to help keep the virus out. What virus? Oh, the virus. The coronavirus that's killed millions. That virus. So there's constantly a, well, the president's lying. Well, the president's telling the truth. Who knows? It's hard to know. There's a lot of deception out there in the today's world. But small farms is a place where you can really get grounded. And a lot of you are not going to be able to do it like I do as a full-time thing. But I knocked out a military career, and now I'm on my second career, and this is what I do. So, but you'll get there if you want to. And hopefully through this channel, this program, we give you a glimpse into that world. And keep going. Keep going. The only thing that's gonna knock you off the track is if you quit. And quitting ain't an option. I've thought about quitting 100 times. 100 times. I just never did it. So we'll see you tomorrow night.
You got a couple questions? You want a fun one?
Okay.
Lone Star.
Lone Star.
Actually,
I was gonna say
I'm gonna give you Joe's
these people.
question first.
These people from Texas. They're
Yeah.
gonna be.
Here's Joe's question first. Bushcraft book suggestions. Is that from a conversation? I'm not sure.
Bushcraft book suggestions. Bushcraft is it's a YouTube channel that my boys keep telling me, Dad, you gotta look at this. And my boys actually are the ones that's got me looking at the flat Earth theory, right? But it took like 6 months. Dad, you gotta look at this. You gotta look at this. So I'm gonna have to look at that bushcraft, but I haven't looked at it yet. What I can recommend to you, there's quite a few books that Joel Salatin has put out that I just find, he speaks to me. So I would look at his books. I know him. I don't get anything for promoting his books. They're just good books. The guy's got a way about him. So I would check his books. I would also look at a book where we got started was the Reader's Digest Back to Basics book. It's an old book. We've had it for 20 years now. So I would look at that. You can get it Tractor Supply, Amazon. Jill's bought cases of them, and we've sold them out from here when people come for our classes. Excellent book. Another good one, honestly. I haven't seen the new one, but the Boy Scout Handbook, I just think is excellent. It's full of things that I used to just pour through it when I was a kid, and I still have my original one, and it's great. All right, so that's what I know. Any other books?
I just put in the chat our book list off of the website.
Oh, and if you get those books, then Amazon gives us $1 million, right?
Oh yeah, something like that.
So yeah, so
A millionth of a dollar.
I might be getting that Corvette after all.
Yeah. So Lone Star's question: how does a conservative man live with a liberal wife?
These days, that's going to be a tough one. Remember last night we were talking about knots, different knots that you can tie? I'd really hone up on those square knot and the sheep shank. Very good knots, because come November, if it's your wife, she's going to be fit to be tied with this new election. I know I have 3 sisters that are just out of their minds right now. They hate the president, and they hate me because I kind of like the president. I hated the last president. I never said anything to them about it, but I don't know. That's a tough one. That's above my pay grade. I am not a psychiatrist. But how did you even go? How did you even make it through the first date? I don't know, man. I really don't know. Maybe, you know what? Lone Star, maybe you should. Yeah, I have family that won't talk to me too. I have 3 sisters that will not talk to me. I have a couple nieces that won't talk to me, a few nephews. I've always been conservative. I've always said what I feel. I've never held back with them, and they always want to tell me to squelch my speech. And I'm like, no, if you say something dumb and I don't say anything, other people in the room are going to think I condone it. I just don't want that happening. You know, I mean, there is right and wrong in this world, and we have a mouth so we can speak up. Supposedly, some subjects are off limits. Baloney. They're not off limits. You know, I've said on here before, poor Caitlyn Jenner, I pick on that poor woman all the time, but you're asking me, when did she put a dress on? How many years ago was that? When it happened, what, she was on the cover of Sports Illustrated. Heroic. That was offensive to me because I was like a 16-year-old kid when Bruce Jenner ran or won the decathlon, right? And he was just cool. He had cool hair. We all had to have butch haircuts then, but he had cool hair and everybody wanted to be like him. And then, I don't know, I lost track of him. I haven't watched TV in a long time. And then all of a sudden find out that Bruce Jenner is going to be now Caitlyn Jenner? And then it's all kind of nebulous. Well, you're putting on a dress and you're growing your hair long, but what else is going on? I don't want to know. But now we got to call her Kate, and we have to say, how heroic. I'm supposed to take my sons and say, you see this, boys? That's a hero right there. That's a hero. You see that dress that he put on? That's heroic. No, I'm not going to do that. I mean, I know I'm expected to, you know, to fit in, but I don't want to fit into that. If we like a certain cut of meat, say it. If we like a certain color, say it. If we like a certain lifestyle, say it. If we don't, say it. Why? I can't say it. I don't like it. I think it's weird. I can't say that? Well, I am, right? I am, and I always have. And maybe that's why I have to kind of live in real world here. If I go get those logs and cut them up to firewood and the firewood gets stored, I'll have a warm house, right? It's just cause and effect, right? If I don't store them and they get snowed on and they get iced in, then I'm out there breaking them. You know how I know that? Because I've done that. And that's the way it goes sometimes. You don't get everything done that you want to get done because you're working like 1 or 2 deep and there's way too many things to do. I appreciate this lifestyle because I have to think and I have to prioritize and I have to push myself constantly, which isn't easy. You know, it really isn't easy for me. I know for some people it is, but for me it's not because I'm basically lazy. My father used to tell me that all the time. It's true. He did. So I don't know how that figures into what the question was. Lone Star has a way of just stirring it up, but I doubt that his wife is a lib. I doubt it. I mean, I didn't see her face, but I saw her working with you on your retort, and if she was a lib, she would have been in the house watching reruns of Oprah. She wouldn't have been out there doing biochar with you, Lone Star. I'm glad you're back, though, by the way. Glad you're back. Okay, is that it? All right, well, that's it. I'm really going to sign off now. We're at 74 minutes. Thanks a lot, everybody, for coming by. Really appreciate it. Really appreciate this time and everything that goes with it. Wish everybody could come by for a cup of coffee sometime.